Alright, so let's take a look at the generic REST connector. I have a minimal one working here because it's such a pain in the neck. So, um, so we went over the REST um, application, the REST services, and we looked at it. We mocked up the OKTA stuff, and we have models that look like it. All right, so when we set this thing up, it's going to ask for connection info, of course, and we're doing basic authentication. Here is user ID and the password. We're not doing proxy anything. We're not using a connector server. Um, and okay, so now we'll get down to the URLs. Now here is where SailPoint just does this a whole lot better. This is insane. These stupid boxes and escaping all these quotes is nuts. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at it over here. So we'll start with the URLs. Okay. So when we went over the services, we have a create operation. So that's the first one we're going to do. We'll get into the updates later in the gets. So right now we're just going to do a create. So here's the URL we're pointing to, and here's our activate true. We're going to pass that in. We're ignoring it, but we're going to make it look like the real thing. And then here's the operation types it wants to know. So remember, from OKTA, our create operation is a post, our search op is a get, and in order to do the updates with a single attribute, we're doing an update post. So all of our updates will be post based on this default. Okay, now they want to know what the name attribute is. So I'm assuming we know OIM here. So if we look at the configuration, that login is coming from the username. Okay, so if we go look at the schema here, okay, here it is under bar name. So that's where it's coming from. And when we point over here, this part wants to know where in the account model is the same attribute. So we're using it to login, but I think it's the user ID. We'll check that. So, and actually we can look right here. Okay, so yeah, the user ID we're passing in, the login is actually email. So it's user ID there. So that's what we probably want to use. Take that and put it over here, like that. All right, so now we can apply this. Okay, let's see what we did here. Got the user ID. I think it's a user ID. Yep. All right, now what we did was we went ahead and I got some users, and I got this guy here, and he already has some accounts. He has one account. It's provisioned. Okay, see here, here's the object ID. This gets returned from the connector. So this becomes basically the GUID for the account. The matching side of this is the username. So we match OIM to that. Okay, now what we can do is let's go and create an account for a user. So we'll come here, we go there. I think we got this guy. I don't think he has an account yet. Nope, so we'll request an account. Okay, now this is where things get weird. They don't quite set this up for you. Okay, so here's our, okay, add that to the cart. How many did I add? Well, let's see. Go here. All right, now here's the problem. See, nothing's getting filled in over here, and that's going to be a problem. So we're going to have to do that. So the last name is, his first name is Joe, his email is Joe3, Joe's.com. We don't need that. Username 3. Provider is OKTA. Okay, so do the update. Now we'll submit, and we'll see what happens. Okay, we go here. The logs are moving. So here's Joe Blow 3. This is where he came in through the web service, and this is the log where it went out the door. It's supposed to be showing what? Okay. It's supposed to be showing the JSON string in the log, but it doesn't seem to want to do that. Let's see what it complained about up here. Oh, this is MDS. Oh, okay, yeah, that's normal. All right, so so there was the create. We saw it come through over here. All right, and then we see that we have to put stuff in there. So it didn't pre-populate anything, and that's kind of what we wanted to do. So, but we can see. So let's take a look and explain the mapping and the schema. That's where it usually gets confusing. All right, so we'll go here. We can go here. We'll go here. Take a look at the schema. All right, now, so we have the provider, which is coming in. We're putting that in. We don't have that coming from a user attribute. So we'll take care of that. The last name here is coming from the user record, and it's getting pumped to the target attribute called last name. And this is going to first name, and then email, and then the UID is the GUID coming back. See, we're not, well, it says it's a provision field, but we're not. And then here is the user login coming from the user record and the status, which I'm not sure we have hooked up yet, but we can deal with that later. For right now, we just want to concentrate on these mappings here. So now let's go look at the JSON string that goes with it. So here we have what that looks like. Okay, so we have our profile, which is at the top level. And then when we look in here, we're telling it, in our JSON string, we want this to go to the profile in the top part of the model. So now in the regular model, there's going to be the ID and the status out over here, but we're not sending any of that. We're getting that back. So, so the way you map it out is this is the actual attribute on the target system. This is the attribute that is called the target attribute here. So this is first name, last name, email twice, and then here is the user ID. Well, here we're using the underbar name attribute because we want it to fill that in for us. And here, notice how we're using the built-in password attribute. And then here we have the provider, which is coming in. We're specifying the same value in two places. Okay, so that's the mapping, and that's how we're getting it to show up properly when we look at the logs over here. So it's coming in properly here. You see we're getting everything. And then despite the fact that this MDS thing is freaking out, the connector does work. So see, I don't understand why it's not showing in the log, but I'll take care of that for the next one. Okay, so that explains how they work initially, but it still doesn't explain why the data isn't getting over there from the get. So in the next video, we'll go through that